On this week's episode of Circles Off, Johnny's back in the co-host chair. We're going to get to a wide variety of topics, including producer Zach making some minus EV moves. And we're going to react to the RJ Bell Dream podcast, talking about content creators in the space, what's acceptable, what's not, all that and more. This week's episode of Circles Off starts now.
Come on, let's go!
Welcome to Circles Off, episode number 117, right here on the Hammer Betting Network. Rob Pizzola joined by Johnny from BetStamp, back in the co-host chair. How are things?
Back after a week off. You guys survived, don't you?
Yeah, it was good. We got a lot of views last week's episode.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Just waiting to be replaced. You guys let me know.
No, it was a long episode, so I think a lot of people wanted to hear it, and George's origin story as well.
G-Stack. What a nice guy.
He is a good dude. He gave me a little cigarello when he left last week. Because I said, I think I mentioned that I wish I had like a cigar for a golfer. He's like, oh, smoke one of these.
When he came in here last time, he gave me a beautiful bottle of scotch that I was enjoying just out of the blue. What a genuine no occasion gift. I appreciate that.
I mean, he brought each of us, so me, you, and Zach behind the glass, a bottle of scotch.
Yeah, George, Rob actually sold his. He flipped it for
double the money.
Disrespect.
Yeah.
I actually am enjoying mine. Thank you.
No, I never would do that. But on top of that, he did the interview here with Cabby. He gave him a Kobe Bryant rookie card.
I know. I
was looking those up on eBay. I mean, there's probably a couple dimes for that card.
Yeah, Cabby's like, you just blew the budget for the show.
Little did he know we didn't have a budget.
There was no budget for 90 degrees.
Budget is zero.
Yet, there will be.
Number 17.
17, Ilya Kovalchuk.
Yeah.
Greatest jersey, the powder blue Thrashers. What am I saying here? Atlanta Thrashers, powder blue, down the sleeve. That's a jersey.
Phillip Rivers is my favorite number 17. He will not get in the Hall of Fame because that scumbag Eli Manning will, because he won the 2 Super Bowls. But if you go back to that draft class, Rivers, Roethlisberger, Eli. Poor Rivers. Just could never get it done, man.
He almost came out of retirement last year. San Fran won the NFC championship.
I actually saw that story. That would have been
that would have been bananas.
Oh, man. Rivers has the chance to win the Super Bowl.
He would have 100,000,000% not won the Super Bowl.
Leaves his wife at home with his 20 kids. He's got a lot of kids. I think he's got double-digit kids.
I think his wife's pregnant again.
Yeah. Rivers... I could never book him as a guest when I was a radio producer. The easy way to book guests, if you want to book an athlete, obviously you contact the team, but the PR guy, depending on how big, your station is or whatever, they're always going to give you the best players from the team. So you might reach out for Phillip Rivers, and they'll be like, Phil's not available, but like this guy is or whatever. Middle linebacker. Okay, sure, we'll do an interview. Have some fun. But you would always be able to get guests by like saying you'll promote their products. So I got like Drew Bledsoe once because we were promoting like his winery, or Charles Woodson, the exact same thing. Or if they were playing in like a charity tournament, it's like, we'll have you on and we'll talk about your charity golf tournament. And like, boom, we'll do it. But Phillip Rivers, every single time, I still love Phillip Rivers, but it was always like, we'll make a live donation to the Rivers of Hope Foundation, like live on air. And we still couldn't get him to do it. He's the only guy ever that just like completely turned me down.
Yeah, tough bounce.
It's a tough bounce.
Wendell Clark.
Speaking of something though,
Clark, 17
that won't let you down.
Pinnacle Sportsbook. Oh man, that was so good. That was actually really good. I wish I could have thought of that. There you go. One week out of the seat, all of a sudden he's coming back in with fresh new ideas. Pinnacle is the world's sharpest sportsbook, available to bettors in Ontario. We often preach line shopping here on Circles Off, and we're going to do that over the course of the football season, but year-round. And I think that's one of the most critical aspects of betting. I'd never consider betting without Pinnacle as one of my sportsbooks because of their everyday competitive odds. We've shown that here on the Circles Off channel. I recorded a video on line shopping a week ago as well, and you can check that out right here on Circles Off. But they do have the most competitive odds in the entire industry. So bet smart, bet Pinnacle. They've been your trusted sportsbook for the past 25 years in business for Pinnacle Sportsbook. And use code HAMMER when signing up. It's a way of supporting the show. So do that. You must be 19 plus, not available in the U.S. And as always, please play responsibly. Today's show is going to be an interesting one. I waited for you to get back to do this one in specific. So Talked a little bit about this with G-Stack last week, about the BetBash panel. You showed up at BetBash as well. You were in the room for the hostility between me and Ravel, which, by the way, this guy came after me on Twitter again this week.
Ravel did?
He posted a picture of him winning a bunch of parlays, and he's like, oh, see, Pizzola, like, parlays aren't bad or whatever. Guy completely missed the point. Then proceeded to say that he was like a winning parlay bettor. It took probably about 30 seconds for someone to find his Action Network historical record and debunk
He
that.
was trying to explain that there's no way to hack it on the Action Network app, which there's obviously ways to hack it on any app.
Of course.
Definitely. He's like, there's no way it could possibly happen, Rob.
Yes.
And then he's like, you don't understand how a tracking app works. And you're just like, Darren, don't tell me how a tracking app works.
It was so frustrating, man. It was actually so frustrating to deal with that. But there was another podcast which talked about this BetBash panel. So on RJ Bell's Dream Preview, there was an episode called BetBash 2023, the After Party Panel. And today what we're going to do on the show is we're going to listen to a lot of that specific episode, and we're going to react to it. And I have not heard this. Johnny has not heard this. Our producer, Zach, listened to the whole thing. So he's going to steer this along, and maybe we'll move and jump from here to there as time goes on. But the reason we're going to do this is because when this podcast came out, we got dozens upon dozens of messages about this specific pod and what we thought about it. And apparently I mentioned by name, Johnny's mentioned by name.
Oh, really?
That's what they tell me.
What do they even say about me?
Well, I don't know, but judging by the cast here of who was part of this, we have RJ Bell, who's the owner of Pregame. We have Steve Fezzik, who appeared right here on Circles Off. Episode link in the description below. I think one of our better episodes ever. AJ Hoffman, I have no idea who that is. Scott Seidenberg, I know exactly who that is. I'll explain. And Mackenzie Rivers. So the description of this is these 5 people discuss BetBash Las Vegas. Very plain and simple. Before we get into it, I think it's important to preface, just for the interest of being like, I don't want to say unbiased because there's generally biases, but just let the audience know, what we think of these people, generally speaking. So Scott Seidenberg, as I mentioned, when I worked for Prediction Machine, I did a weekly hit with Scott Seidenberg on NBC Sports Radio. He eventually went over to VSiN, where I continued to do hits during the football season on his show on VSiN. Scott is a great guy. He's not an expert in betting, and I think he would definitely admit that. But he's really taken a fondness to that over the course of the years. I think he's a very real person who is obviously opinionated, as most people who are in radio are. We do like to hear our own voices, but I don't think he would be upset if I said he's not an expert in betting. RJ Bell, where do I start? I infamously tweeted in 2014, which Zach has actually pulled up on the screen here. You can mock RJ in Vegas all you want, but he provides some great info on a week-to-week basis. Good stuff here, and I linked to a pregame forum. I've never deleted this. I don't delete tweets.
I've seen you delete a couple tweets.
Have I? No, I haven't deleted. There might have been a time where I tried to scrub some stuff for one specific company, which I won't say, where I was trying to get hired by that company. But I think that's the only time I've ever deleted tweets.
Fair enough.
I listen, I don't delete tweets. I don't. And this is a reminder because this one would have been out the door a long time ago. But
so you don't believe this now, or you do?
I do not, because this was 2014. I was a recreational bettor. I was working in radio, like I mentioned, betting the NFL. I was very much like into the short-term trend stuff. Like this team is whatever and whatever coming off of a bye week. That was the type of stuff that mattered to me. And that's the kind of stuff that RJ was putting out at that time. I don't now believe that was valuable at all. I was also interviewed 2 years later for an article that came out on Deadspin. I believe the author was Ryan Goldberg. The article was called How America's Favorite Sports Betting Expert, it was basically a hit piece on pregame. Okay. And it was led by another bettor that went by Jacob Wheatley Schaller. At that time, he was Vegas Watch on Twitter. But essentially, none of my stuff ever made it into that article. and it wasn't directed specifically at RJ Bell, but it was directed at the Philly Godfather at that time. But it was really eye-opening for a lot of people in terms of how these betting businesses do, tout services do. And I think in that particular article, we'll link to the article in the description. We're not going to read through it. It's very long if you want to take your time to do it. But I think what the author did was broke down pre-game's history in terms of here's who wins, here's who loses, and then here's how many win on top of the cost you have to pay for the subscription.
Which was how many?
I think it was one.
But that was just variance.
Yeah, I think it was one person that won with the subscription. So anyways, RJ, I believe, then threatened litigation against Deadspin and got some of the things in that article revoked, or he was able to put his own words into it as well. So if you do read it now, there's also commentary from RJ within there. But to say that he's a polarizing individual would be understating it. There's definitely a group of people, Contrarianville, known as Seville, a lot of people who give us negative comments for our show or whatever, doesn't matter to me, but that hate RJ Bell. So there's a community that just despises the guy and thinks he's the worst person on earth. I'm not saying I believe that. I don't hate a lot of people. I don't think that there's some things with his business that are absolutely not right, but I don't think all touts are scum either. So there's like a fine line. Steve Fezzik, we shared our thoughts on Fezzik. Again, there's people out there that despise Steve Fezzik. I'm not one of those people. Do I think everything he does is right? Absolutely not. I think that there's a lot of conflict with the pick route that he's taken, but I don't hate on the individual himself. So it is a group of people that our core audience would probably want us to be very harsh on them. I'm just stating the facts here. I'm going to speak my mind as if I didn't know any of these five people, essentially.
Yeah, for mine, I don't know any of them personally. I met Fezzik for like 1 minute at BetBash. I was actually hoping to talk to him more, but never got the chance. Like, it's crazy busy there. Like, constantly moving around, getting pulled in all different directions. So yeah, no, but I don't know. I don't even really know RJ Bell. Obviously, know who he is. RJ in Vegas, but
RJ in Vegas, yeah.
I can't say I've listened to any of this stuff as well. So we'll see. It'll be an organic reaction from me, that's for sure.
Okay. Zach, let's hit it.
Imagine a siren, emergency edition of the pod. And we've got the man that everyone's talking about, or at least he's amongst the crowd that's being discussed, Steve Fezzik, who was on a panel down at Circa. There was a BetBash event, and somehow someone canceled and he got on it.
Yeah.
Was it the B team? Is that the fair way to say it?
The money came in against this panel being popular as soon as the lineups got reported. And
I disagree.
somehow the guy was out.
This is the best panel by a mile.
So the
Those
name of
other
the
panels
panel was... It was a Rodney King echoing of why can't we all get along?
Twitter wars. Why can't we all get along?
You know, I could have made this real simple and could have skipped the panel because most sports bettors that make money or almost make money are assholes.
That is true.
Pretty accurate.
I mean,
Yes.
we could just say that and say, let's wrap up, boys. I'll meet you down at the bar.
What's wild is how he looked Fez straight in the eye when he said that. Like, didn't feel bad about it at all. Like,
Whoa, don't we all know that?
we all know that guys who make money betting sports and win super contests, particularly multiples, are assholes.
No, I didn't say that. I said that's a unique group with an underbelly of sweetness that isn't obvious. It takes years to say. Here's what we're going to do, though. If you haven't heard, we're going to set the scene. Now, this is one of those, there's an old saying, why are the fights so tough in academia, where there's like some professor of archaeology that's mad at some other professor, and it's so intense. And the answer to that question is often, well, that's all they've got. What you have is people who, if you're good, you could have done something else. There's very few people I know that really win at sports betting that couldn't have been a lawyer, couldn't have been a professor. Usually their IQ is sufficient. Would you agree with that, Fed?
Yeah, the bar is so high and requires such a level of competence to win significantly at sports betting.
So you're complimenting yourself right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
so you're saying to be me.
To be me, if you're going to make 6 figures a year betting sports, means you should be able to bet 7 figures if you'd gone to Wall Street or something else.
Yeah, I mean
There's some element of truth to that.
I mean, honestly, no. There's honestly not. I disagree with that.
Okay, in the sense of, well, I mean, I don't do that because I can't get a higher paying job than I make off sports. But I think that there's a lot of people who take less just to bet sports than they could be making elsewhere.
It's like, it's like comparing a different thing in life, though. Like,
True.
It's basically like saying, oh, if you were a doctor, you could have if you were making 300-something thousand as a doctor, you could have become a lawyer and make 400,000. Like, yeah, it's a different job, though. Like, you want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, you want to be whatever. Like,
it's true. And actually, the path of lots of sports bettors is starting with a full-time job and then just quitting that because they've now exceeded that income.
Yeah, like, personally, like, I would never want to be a lawyer. Like, that's not my style. Like, I wouldn't want to. I just not passionate about that. Don't want to do it.
Right.
Wouldn't, like, if you told me, hey, you can make whatever, you make $10 million right now. Give you $10 million right now. You gotta be a dentist for the rest of your life. I'd be like, nah, fuck that.
I'm with you.
Genuinely.
Yeah, no, I think I'm kind of with you. It's
probably even more money than that, to be
matters.
honest.
But I think they're just setting the stage now for whatever conversation that we're gonna get into. Go ahead, Zach.
Rating scheme that wasn't even gambling related that Phil was somehow involved in. You know, it's interesting that anyone can be diminished like that if you go unconventional. If you don't go with society says be a doctor, be a lawyer, be whatever that has credentials in front of it, and you better toe the line or we'll kick you out of the club. But if you're in this club, you know you toe the line. Well, guys like Fez doesn't like that. Wild men like that. Well, you know what? Most people who don't like toeing the line, they are human still, most of them, and they want to be affirmed. Well, how do you get affirmed in sports betting? You can win super contests, but there's a reason a lot of pros hate that Fez has won 2 of those because it does affirm him. And it tends
pause.
The super contest, bro. Stop. The super contest is literally, it's a game of skill, but the amount of, that's not a different thing.
It doesn't
bro.
affirm
on,
anything. It actually doesn't affirm anything. Like I would
like the guy who won the Circa Millions contest last year.
Yeah, could be a losing sports bettor. We don't even know that.
Yeah, he might be a winner. He might be a loser. Yeah. But that he won the Circa Millions. Like, I'm not staking that guy to bet this year.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
I wouldn't stake him to win the super contest this year because he won last year.
So this is already a disagreement for me as well. Like, I don't think that. I think maybe football contests over a long period of time. He
did win twice, whatever. Like, I'm sure he's playing optimal strategy. Like, he's picking games, right? But like, it's not that big a deal.
Different time, different number of entrants.
Yeah,
there's like a lot of things that
it's also a stale line pool. Like, you just pick the odds. Like, it's nothing to do with market reading. There's no bet sizing. There's no positions, no opposition. Like, regular betting is way more of a indicator of skill than winning a super contest.
Agreed. I'm not trying to diminish the feats of winning contests. By the way, I'm just saying that this does not affirm anyone as being like a great bettor.
I've never won a super contest, so I've never been in a super contest.
I've never come within 10 games of winning one of the contests.
Are you in this year?
Yeah.
Circa Mil
to the max. I got the 5 entries and the 10 survivors. Yeah.
See you on the court.
I like to piss away money.
I'll see you on the court. No, it's
not
a piss away money, dude.
Meet me on the 9th green at 9.
The Circa Millions this year. So I'll say this for everyone. I truly believe there should be an overlay. Mm-hmm. Derek Stevens, former friend of the pod, he has.
Why former?
Former guest of the pod, current friend of the pod.
Friend.
Derek, it's guaranteed up $8 million prize pool. Doesn't look like they're going to get to the 8 mil, so there will be some overlay. Also, Circa Millions. So many people forget to put in the picks.
Yeah.
So many people forget to put the picks in. I'm saying right now, based on the prize structure, there's already no VIG, right? So technically, if you randomize, the fact that there's an overlay, plus people forget the picks, if you just use a randomizer each week, go online and be like, randomize whatever, mark each game 1 to 32 or something, each team, and then just like randomize it 5 numbers, use those, plus EV for the year.
It very well could be the case. Last year it looked like it wasn't going to fill, and there was a ton that came in late, so it's still possible.
But it didn't fill last year, anyways.
It was very close.
Small overlay, and they raised it from 6 mil to, or 5 or 6 mil to 8 mil. So unless it grows another,
Yes,
this got to grow, decent percentage chance, I think. And plus the entries are max at 5.
Yeah.
Survivor's 10.
Yeah.
You can only do 5 super contests. This is we're promoting the contest. Go sign up if you're in Vegas. I think it's a good value bet. Also, Circus guaranteed. A lot of people do these pools and stuff, especially around here, like cash pools. They'll be like, oh, it's a 50 grand prize. Yeah, it's all good. These ones are 8 million prize pool for if you win the Survivor contest. Obviously, it's harder to win. Entry costs $1,000 US, but like, man, that's fun.
That's real life changing money. Like
that's
real,
fun. It's fun.
Yeah,
like
agreed.
That's fun. And you're not even getting bad value. Like they don't take a vig on that. So even if it goes, so let's say 8 million, but let's say 1 million people sign up. It's not like the prize is only 8 million.
Yep.
And the prize will be whatever the thing is. Like Circa doesn't take a vig. So
totally agree.
Anyways,
when I win, I'm not retiring. Just so you know, Rob.
You know what is negative EV though?
Save it.
No. It needs to come up right now. Okay. You know what is negative EV? Heard from a buddy of Zach's.
Oh, no. You fucked up. Something with the insurance.
No.
Okay.
This guy, you entered in Circa, millions.
Yeah.
This guy paid 35% for his proxy service.
Ooh, that's tough, man.
What?
How much you pay for your proxy?
Okay, hold on. I use your proxy.
Maddie Simo?
But how many entries did you buy?
1.
And how much money did you pay for the proxy?
We got the Saturday extended one, so whatever that is.
Oh, so it's more,
buddy.
Yeah, because you can wait till. So a lot of the proxy services.
No, I know, but how much did you pay? So it's $1,000 for the entry. How much for the proxy?
Well, I don't know what it is.
I was told it was $350.
Okay, I don't know for sure, but I will say every proxy has a service. This is what it's become. But you either pay for your they're charged more for the extended sign up time, where you can get right to the limit.
One entry and paid $350 if that's the correct number for the proxy. So you paid $1,000 for the entry. You paid $1,350 for the entry. There's your EV down the drain on the proxy for the one entry.
EV if you did that.
That's Canadian though, obviously.
All right, sorry, that's like $1 US.
Yes,
okay, but that's also not. That's also not 30% though.
We're gonna get to the bottom.
If it was $350, then yeah,
we need some receipts
above 30%.
Well, if it was no, because $1,000 to US to Canadian
is 13.
So what is it? 300 Canadian, 350 Canadian.
I can pull up the exact receipts of how much.
All right, you paid 26% vig. Sorry, my bad. The nose Canadian versus US. Still though, anything above, that's too much vig. You can't be getting one entry. Like pool it with someone, get the same proxy. And also the worst part is this: one of the most negative EV thing. Ask around, buddy. You don't have any friends. You couldn't ask me. I would have got you a free proxy. Done. Easy.
I did ask around. That's how I ended up with the proxy that I have.
Who did you ask?
You asked me.
So there's your first mistake.
Well, listen. Here's the thing. I'm only gonna ever advocate for someone who has never ever made a mistake for me, or anyone that I know. This is the issue. So proxy services are a whole nother topic of conversation, but there's always every year a nightmare story with a proxy service. Now, I know what you're going to say about your proxy service. It's not like a technical proxy, potentially. Might be a better that we mutually know that would just make the picks on his behalf. But even then, it's like there's no protection on his end. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. But what I'm saying is this. What good is having a full-fledged insurance policy if you're paying more than the cost of the insurance? Like if you're paying more than what it's worth, you're paying $350. Okay, again, Canadian, US, it's about $260 for the listeners here. You're paying $1,000 entry for the contest.
Yeah.
$260 for the proxy.
Yeah.
Obviously, listen, you don't have to be a genius. It doesn't add up. Sorry, Zach. It is what it is. I don't mean to chirp you. If it's less than that, all good. But those are the numbers I was told. That's why I'm going off that decision.
Yes.
If you paid $25, $50, then I'll take it back. I'll say fine.
I will guess that this was a heat of the moment thing for you. You had like one last day in Vegas.
Well, you need a proxy to sign up with you. So like if you don't have one, you can go right or call.
Well, they're all there. They're hanging out there at the sportsbook.
Yeah. They just had the booth set up that day, and then you said that this is your proxy, and then I followed him on Twitter, and he was he was there set up.
He was the guy there.
Early bird gets the worm. Good on that proxy. You got the money.
He's a good
I was
dude.
there for
He won't
I
make
was there
any
for
mistakes.
2 days.
No. He's not gonna make any mistakes, but nor will the regular proxy. You could just check it.
This is not true, though, because lots of them you input your picks through a website. The website goes down. Like, this is what happened a couple years ago. I'm not going to say who it was, but a website goes down and everyone's picks don't go in for a week. Like, that's horseshit, right? Like, you never want that to happen.
Of course, you definitely don't want that to happen. But what I'm saying is, like,
This guy will literally message you if you don't send your picks, and he'll be like, he'll text you and be like, dude, I'm at the counter right now. Like, you have 3 minutes. Like, let's call me. Let's figure it out. Like, that's the type of guy he is.
Like, let me just also set the scene for what was going on for me there. So,
just excuses for making a bad decision.
I didn't go there to planning to sign up. Friday, I was working basically the entire time until 6 p.m. Vegas time. Then I went out with the guys that I was there working with, still not planning on doing Millions or Survivor. And then at like 11:45 p.m. Friday night, Vegas time, I get a text from someone asking me if I want to do the Survivor. And I said, sure. Saturday morning, I get a text from someone else asking if I want to do the Millions.
So wait, are you in Millions or Survivor?
Both. I have one in each.
Oh, 1 and 1.
Yeah.
Okay, is the $350 per entry, or was it for both cumulative?
No, it was that is for Survivor or for Millions only. Survivor is like significantly cheaper. The Survivor proxy was significantly cheaper.
You could have just asked me, bro. Negative EV move of the week.
I
Is
legitimately
this, but also
had
not messaging
approximately
and leveraging.
5 hours to get a proxy, find the proxy, meet up with them, fill out the papers, pay, and do this because of how last minute it was, because I was leaving that night and the proxy was leaving the sportsbook at 4 p.m.
Sorry, I'm just going to Google. How long does it take to text someone? Is it under or over 5 hours? How's my response time on text?
In fairness, he did message me.
No, usually it takes me.
And I wouldn't change my messaging to him.
For what?
Because I know so many people who've gotten fucked in these contests just because they picked a bad proxy or they relied on a friend to put in their picks. So yes, he's killing his EV. There's also proxies that won't take anything up front, but they'll take a percentage of winnings, where the EV is even worse on those in a lot of cases.
The EV in those is better than the 350, I think. Because
depends on the percentage.
Entry is not 350. I mean, if it's it depends on the percentage.
So also the 1,000 was at the time of conversion 1,500.
What do you mean?
Like it was $1,500 Canadian to enter.
No, that's impossible.
I have the receipts.
Oh my god! Tell me you paid a massive vig on USD to CAD as well.
Probably did.
Zachary,
credit card or whatever. So your bank gave
Dude,
you a bad
credit
exchange
card.
rate.
The exchange rate's $1.36. You paid $1.50.
Yeah,
bro, you literally could have got 2 entries instead of 1. Zach. It's it. We're ending this topic. Now I'm going to come off looking like an ass on this thing. But seriously, bro, next time, only lesson here is message around, ask me, I'll help you out. Always ask friends for help. Anyone listening right now. If you're going to do something.
I did, though. I did ask a friend for help, and I got help.
All right. So for anyone
listening. You just disagreed with the person that it was.
No, I have to find the conversation.
Okay. How was I supposed to know? I have to find the conversation.
Was going to be. If you still think that was a good move, power to you guys that you think it was a good move to pay probably $1,800 for a Canadian, for the equivalent, you should have been paying $100. You should have been paying $1,360 on the nose Canadian.
He is correct.
You paid upwards of $1,800 total to get this done.
You've paid more for your entry.
Less than I have, but fair enough. Okay.
I do have the receipts. It was Zach Phillips. How do you set up via proxy for the Circa contests? I said, you need someone to do it for you. I use Matty Simo at Vegas Matty on Twitter. He put, okay, thanks. I don't know how we're going to get to a resolution here.
Disappointing.
I highly recommend Matty Simo. Again, I will.
If you want to do one entry in Vegas for a super contest, I would highly recommend not converting your cash via credit card.
That I would also recommend.
I would highly convert not converting your cash via credit card at the ATM and then using at Vegas Matty for the one entry. But I'm sure he's reliable. If you're getting the 10 full suite, bang, yeah, okay, now your VIG per entry is lower, like it's fine. But anyways, back to this interview. Where did we go here? Where did we go? No, that's already my negative EV move of the week. We can really skip the segment. I'm done for today. I'm not giving another negative EV.
Okay, that's fair. We just did things a little out of order.
Hey,
it's totally fine.
Hey, honestly, love you guys. No harm.
You don't have to apologize to me.
No. I wasn't apologizing. I love you guys. I just want the best. Zach, trying to help you.
He has been trying to teach you like plus EV for a long time, but in all aspects of life. You've applied it to sports betting,
Yeah, I know.
but in other aspects of life, you have currently failed.
No, he hasn't currently failed. He's been doing great. This guy's literally the best kid. I'm just saying. Ask for help. Anyone on the camera, if anyone listening to this or watching this, if you're gonna look to do something right away, you're gonna look to do something new. I know we messaged Rob, but the best thing you can do is have a network of people where you can message 4 or 5 guys. Hey, how do I get this reservation at this place? Hey, I'm looking to go here. I'm in this city. Imagine being in a new city, having 5 friends in that city, being able to ask them, hey, what's the best thing for here? And then taking that in. Network, super important, but you have to actually leverage it. And then on the other end, if somebody messages you, make sure you're providing value, giving out the stuff. If someone messages you, Zach, hey, what do I do for this? How do I edit this thing on YouTube? You don't be like, oh, well, yeah, I charge $100 for this. Nah, help someone out and someone will help you out back.
It's a lot of the same principles we preach with sports betting. One is the line shopping, obviously. In sports betting, it's a little different because no matter what, you're getting like the same bet. You know what I'm saying? It's not the same services or whatever. Exactly. Fair enough.
See what I mean?
Fair enough. The second thing is we preach not waiting to the last minute as well. And that could be a catastrophic mistake sometimes because you put yourself in you don't have those options a lot of times when you wait to the last minute. The line moves.
I agree with that.
The limits are way higher. The market's more efficient. And he's learning a little bit about the efficient market.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah, I get that. The I don't know.
No more excuses. You admit it was a mistake. You paid too much. Move on. Win the contest. Prove me wrong.
That's it.
Win it, and then be like, oh, what was that 350?
Yeah.
Well, I don't feel so good about with the chances of winning the millions because of
his partners.
1/3 of my team, but
he has lay it with Luke on his team.
Yeah. Well, you could go for the booby prize then. As they call it.
No. He's not going to listen to this. So I already talked to the other guy in the thing, and I said, look, we'll submit the picks the first 2 weeks. You and I sit down, we reevaluate where we're at after the first 2 weeks. If things aren't going well, we just get Luke's picks every week for the rest of it, and then we just go from there and see what we're doing. It's a good move. What it is.
That's not a bad move.
Yeah.
That's
not a bad move.
Back to the pod here.
Sports betting.
No,
right?
There's no credentials that are given out based upon doing these internships or years of study. Yeah,
exactly. So usually it's, hey, he's a professor at Harvard, right? You can look at I think his name is it Cornell West. Mackenzie, you probably know the guy who's running for president now.
Yeah, Cornell West. Good friend of my dad's.
Thinking of Kanye West.
So is that true? I'm a fan of his presentation. Is awesome. Generally, he's a very bombastic political guy. He's I think running for president now. As a third party, but he was I think at Princeton for a long time. But when a guy comes on talking a little loud and they say professor at Princeton, you got to accept
we're good.
There's something there. Well, there's no such thing. Now, that's why back in the day, sports betting, usually the voices of it were bookmakers. Because
Pause
if
for 1
for
second.
the MGM...
So I can tell you where this is going to go already, right? This isn't the argument of, like, who can police the sports betting space if there are no, like, how do we determine who the best bettors are? Because what he's saying right now is, like, okay, if you go to other industries, this is where it's going to go.
This is where it goes.
Is this where? Okay. If other industries have like certificates, or you go to school to become a medical doctor, or you're a professor, or you whatever, there's ways for them, like there's levels of expertise, right? In the sports betting space, you don't necessarily have that. This is the common point that's brought up a lot of times, and this is kind of like, if anyone is upset with the way that I handle myself or how I call people out, I often get like, well, who are you? Who are you? Who says that you're allowed to determine what's right and what's wrong? And my answer to that is, I don't think that I'm determining that. I'm just stating my opinion on what I think. And this is coming from someone who does this as a profession. Can anyone prove that? Or do they know how much income I make? No. But what it tends to happen in the betting community is people hear of one another, or they hear like who's a stiff, who not to work with, who you should work with, who's won betting this stuff. I could tell you who's got the best WNBA stuff and best NBA stuff, even for people that I haven't worked with before, just through word of mouth. So it's kind of like a community in a sense, if that's where this is going. But like, this is often what happens, and I'm getting way too ahead of myself here, but RJ Bell runs pregame. This is a conversation amongst pregame experts. They're selling a product. the hammer circles off. We're not technically selling a product, but we're still trying to monetize in our own way. So people are always like, well,
you're always selling a product.
Yeah.
I've said this like a while back,
Right.
but like even if you just have your own Twitter profile to tweet,
you're selling something.
You're selling something because you're garnering an audience, which garners attention, which gives you credibility to allow you to later sell yourself or something or whatever. Even if you're selling yourself as like an application for someone to work with you or like you or whatever. So,
okay.
Agreed. But he's right.
Yes. Okay. I'd like to see where this goes, Zach, because this is a very common criticism of the space right now.
Doesn't matter how much they know. You in that article, you can say MGM Sport, but in truth, those guys, other than bookmaking, don't know as much as the bettors do typically. So my point here is, if you're not validated, you're not credentialed, and you have any ego, you want your mom to be proud of you, the only way to do that is to gain notoriety. So what you have is a lot of people on social media all acting like they're above caring, that all very much want to have enough followers, or back in the day, get a blue check mark or whatever to validate them. And the theme that we're going to explore throughout Fez's TikTok he's going to do now of what happened is ask yourself, does this help validate the person saying it? Because in almost every case, you can almost guess their position by what they could say that would most validate the way they act.
That's fair, I think. Like the argument that I'm more likely to promote, line shopping and responsible betting and doing all these things because it has a more tangible impact on me. I think that's fair. Generally speaking, it's hard to separate like your biases, especially when you're involved with businesses, from, everything else. But this is an interesting conversation. Let's hear what Fezzik has to say in regards
Dan
to this.
Ravel is going to say one thing, and it's going to validate him. And Fez is going to say typically what validates him, just like humans do. And we should all know what the motivations are here. It's not always, well, in the abstract, what I believe is.
Okay, so this is kind of like what bothers me about the whole thing. And this is kind of what I was saying on the BetBash panel that you were at. We're very clear about our motivations, right? And I'm not saying like I'm a saint, whatever. We run businesses, myself and Johnny, right? We run the Hammer, we run BetStamp. We are trying to grow our businesses. I think the issue in the space is where like greed exceeds ethics, so to speak, right? Like there's a lot of people out there. So my whole thing was misrepresentation is a real problem. So like with our businesses, we've been very upfront with people, right? Pinnacle's a sponsor of this show. I love Pinnacle. I've used Pinnacle since I've been betting for a long time. I'm happy to promote a product that I stand behind. When we're in the affiliate business, we send traffic to sportsbooks. We've been very clear that we make money off of that. That is how we monetize our business. We're very upfront about that. That doesn't mean that we try to send literally as much traffic possible to sportsbooks at all times, or we'll promote anything. Like there's an ethical line at some point or another. And I think that's where a lot of this gets blurred. And that's kind of what I was saying to Ravel. Like obviously you guys, Action Network, you have a subscription base. People can subscribe. You're an affiliate as well. I'm not saying you can't do those things. Just do them in a way that's morally responsible. Don't have people coming on air and representing themselves as experts. Like Ravel right now in his mind, like based off the tweet he sent me this week, he thinks he's an expert in the betting space. Like he thinks he's become an expert. That's where we get into like dangerous territory, in my opinion. So, okay, who's going to police this? Who can say what's right and wrong? But like talking about parlays is bad for bettors. You can't consistently win at Rob Pizzola with the SpongeBob type of
you're an idiot.
Yeah, you're an idiot characterization and posting his parlay winners over the course of a week. And it's like, dude, you've completely like lost the plot. You won some parlays on one day. Like you've lost the plot. And this is what's scary and dangerous in my opinion. So that's kind of my thing.
He's like clearly, dude, like, he doesn't even know what a parlay is then. If he's going to say like betting for this, it's parlay betting is literally just betting and then betting more if your thing wins. It's the same. We've explained this a million times. Like, a parlay is not a revolutionary thing. You're just doubling your bet amount and rolling it over, which is a very irresponsible for a recreational bettor.
Agreed. And that's kind of the point I'm getting across. And like, listen, I say this all the time on the show as well, right? You want to bet parlays? Go bet parlays. Go do whatever you want to do. It's your own money, but just at least be aware of what you're doing when you're betting a parlay. On top of that, I would never give out a parlay myself or talk about teasers like I do on Pizza Buffet on Sunday mornings without providing some context as to what those bet types are and like the sportsbook hold and stuff like that. There's an opportunity just to air that stuff, and people can make their own decisions at the end of the day, but 99% of the population, they don't get this stuff. Like, look back to my tweet from 2014, the RJ Bell one, right? Like, that's me. I don't get that. I don't get that at that time. Maybe that's like what incentivizes me now or motivates me. It's like, I don't want people to go down the same path that I did for all those years. But yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't think this is like an apples to apples. Let's hear more.
It's ethical. It's usually what is going to make me seem better than everyone else. All right, Fez, give us the TikTok.
All right. So the panel was moderated by Sammy P. out of Chicago, but the big conflict was between Darren.
Well, you got to wonder about the industry that the moderator is Sammy P. out of Chicago.
It's
Pananovich?
Pananovich.
12 letters.
Out of Chicago sounds like it's like in good
mob stuff. Yeah.
I can't spell it. I can't pronounce it.
He's actually out of Boston now. He works for Nesson. He's the betting analyst for Nesson.
See, now he's validated, right?
Yes.
All right, but really, it started out guns a-blazing here with Ravel going up against Rob Pizzola, and Rob basically calling out Ravel.
So both are on the panel.
They're both on the panel and saying, you know what, you're going out and you're giving out all this betting advice that is not respected amongst the expert sports bettors, and giving yourself out.
Where does that council meet? The experts. Is this like
the wise guys smoking the cigars
together? Is this
together?
When the Pope gets elected? Is there white smoke?
Yeah, the smoke comes up and the like.
I'm just wondering because right there, and again, I'll be honest with you. I like Rob. I mean, I've had personal dealings with him. I listen to a pod
RJ.
he's
so
on.
For context, this is RJ.
The Matchbook pod. He is quite sanctimonious. He has a strong opinion about right and wrong. And he seems to be the arbiter of that opinion, meaning that who's accepted and not, who's sharp, who's not. He's in that club that's deciding it.
Pause. In my viewpoint, I'm not. This can be how it's perceived from the outside in. I merely state my opinions. Period. I don't expect every single person to adopt those opinions. I just want to put that out there. Like that's. I mean, Fezzik didn't do a great job of giving a recap of honestly like what the thing was. So
maybe he will.
Yeah, maybe he's not providing like a ton of context here. But again, the issue with Ravel was misrepresentation and like coming across as if you have subject matter expertise that you don't. And again, yeah, like we can't all meet in a back. Not all these. I'm just stating my opinion. That's all that's coming down.
For those who weren't at the panel, I think Rob came across as basically this. He was like, it's okay if you want to be a losing bettor. It's fine. Like, not everyone's going to be that. And it's still okay for you to be in the space, making content, doing all these things. But it's not okay to represent yourself as a pro bettor who's going to help win if you follow my picks and also be a losing bettor. Yes. That's how like Rob came across. He mentioned a few other people in the industry as well, but back to the interview.
Yeah, but I just want to make it explicitly clear. Like, I don't think that I'm the person that can like is deeming, okay, you're a winner, you're a loser. You deserve to have a platform. You don't deserve. Like, I have those opinions, but I don't expect that the entire industry is going to adopt them. Like, that's not what this is about.
Now, isn't that interesting?
Yes, and he had consensus. So Dave Sharapan, who was on the panel, Vegas wise guy, pretty much agreed with what Rob was saying. Jeff Benson, who runs the Circus Sportsbook, he pretty much agreed as well. That the Action Network was pushing the envelope towards giving themselves out as an expert, providing expert picks, even though Darren Ravel was like, well, this is entertainment, and we like to give these same game parlays and the like, and I bet everything that I give out.
So a couple of quotes here from the panel where Darren Ravel admitted he's part of the problem.
No,
That's really the kind of the tip.
See, again, Rufus put out a Twitter thread that says, like, Darren Ravel, I'm part of the problem. That was, like, taken out of context.
Yeah, he never actually said that.
So everybody's picked up on this, and that never happened. So to Darren Ravel's credit, he said it sarcastically, and it was, like, as a part of a longer sentence. So anyways, Scott's going to keep reading out quotes, I think, here or whatever.
Tip off of the whole thing. That was just the initial quote.
No, hold on a second now. If we were doing this against first of all, me and Darren Ravel are nemesises at this point. I used to like Darren. In fact, the first TV hit I ever did was for him at CNBC like 10 plus years ago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, at some point, I mean, he became very... The reality is, and we've seen this a bunch now, people who don't know sports betting as experts are stepping in the industry. Now, that's something that we've really strived when we brought in non-full-time sports bettors like AJ, like Scott. We make it very, when their prior careers, well, for you, your prior career was most recent was in the media for sports betting too. But then prior to that, NBC, et cetera, et cetera. So neither of them are going to say, I'm like Fez. I'm betting what Fez is betting. I like that. I think having other experts come in, like, for example, our baseball pod, on Monday it's taping, Tuesday it's released. We got a former professional baseball player.
Josh Towers.
And he really knows baseball. And we think, okay, and he's been around betting. He's a Vegas guy, but he's not a professional bettor.
Okay, so I don't mind stuff like that. We do this at the Hammer, by the way. Like, we bring on Eric Eager of Sumer Sports as a football analyst. He's not a pro bettor. We never sell him as a pro bettor. We just sell him as a football analyst, is which he is. VP of Analytics for Sumer Sports. We don't claim that he's a pro bettor or anything like that. And the reason why we have him on Forward Progress on YouTube, go and hit that subscribe button. We've got lots of NFL content coming up this year. But the reason we have him on is because I learned a lot from him. And, like, he provides context that is helpful for bettors. So I have no issues with that. But it's kind of different. Like, if I go to pregame right now, AJ Hoffman, who's part of this broadcast, Scott Seidenberg, like, these guys are selling picks on the platform. You know, you have RJ right here saying, like, these guys aren't expert sports bettors. I don't know. I don't know. Like, isn't that not, like, super contradictory?
Like, that he's calling them not pros and they're selling picks?
Yeah.
I mean, if the records are public and stuff, like, anyone could sell anything. It's just a matter of being transparent, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, okay, so there's like the marketing records that are here. You can click into picks on any one of these guys, and you can see a full every pick ever. But you have to do it in such a convoluted way that I wonder if it's intentional or not. Like, I can see the last 100 picks for someone, but if I wanted to search from, like, January 2021 to now, I cannot do that. I literally have to click every single day in between.
And see the record by picks by day.
Picks by day. So it would be very, very, very challenging for me to go out and do something like that.
Like, get a guy's record.
Yeah.
Without the power of, like, technology.
Yeah. But I don't mind if people brand or, like, people produce content that aren't experts. Like, I don't maybe I've been, like, poorly communicating this all along. I just think the onus is on the person to represent themselves as who they are rather than something that they're not. I think you push the ethical boundary when you start to do things that you're not. Like, if Eric Eager came on every single week and we're like, listen to Eric, he's this great professional sports bettor, like, that's crossing the line, in my opinion. That's not what he is. That's not how we want to represent him. That doesn't mean that, I'm not telling people who to throw out on air. Everyone has some sort of, draw. It could be entertainment. It could be whatever. Just be real with the audience. Like, that's the one ask. That's the biggest frustration for me in terms of pet peeve. So, I mean, I think for RJ to say that, I think the lines are kind of blurred with pregame. In the sense that, okay, he's telling AJ and Scott, we hired you not because you guys are sports betting experts, but because, like, you can contribute to a conversation type of thing, but they're selling picks on the site. And maybe the counter is like, well, all the picks are there for people to see and they can decide what they want. And maybe that's a fair counter, but I don't know. Just seems a little bit contradictory.
Let's see what else they got to say on Pizzola.
Yeah.
To me, that's a scum. If a person's trying to feed, I mean, again, we can always justify anything.
Let's see what they got to say about Pizzola.
A different level of choice when it's the gutter or scam versus middle class or upper middle class, but you just got to scam. Those are the people I disrespect the most, personally. So I was always going to be able to make a living. I don't think ethically I would have been okay with anything to make a little bit extra that I couldn't feel good about myself. So, I'll just be candid. That's why I didn't even think about it. But so we have the we'll call it the boiler room outbound calls. Now, what you guys mentioned next, the flash, the bling, listen, no names here, but we know a guy, Fez, that probably the most mild-mannered, probably the lowest monthly nut where he doesn't spend money, and he was working for a company that was pretty flashy for a while, and they rented him, what was it, like sharkskin shoes. This is a guy that literally had an 18-year-old car rumbling into the lot, and they had him renting a Lamborghini. I mean, so now do we think that guy's evil?
Yeah,
I mean, that's the question.
Yes.
Representing. And
Yes.
I've had a guy
Renting
buy
stuff
loan
in general.
$10,000 to because he's like,
this
In
is
general,
just a
renting,
shit sleazy marketing tactic.
Okay, renting things in general.
Yes.
And giving renting things is completely fine.
Yes.
For the most part, it's fine. If you want to rent a Ferrari, drive it around for the day, enjoy it. What's wrong with that? You got the ability to experience driving a Ferrari.
Agreed.
Renting it and then giving the appearance to others that you own it for the purposes of marketing something is very common. However, it's just a marketing ploy.
This is when profit becomes more important than ethics. And you don't care that this isn't you. You just want people to perceive you as this. Now, listen, this is social media in general, right? Like, look at people's Instagrams and stuff like that. You're not posting stuff of most people aren't like, oh, look how shitty my life is or whatever.
It's the highlight reel, but also sometimes it's not even the highlight reel. It's like fake.
Yes, but so listen, there's an extension of this that just exists because we're conditioned to do this by social media. Like, you have lots of points in the day that aren't the finest hours for you over the course of a day that are not going to make it to your Instagram reel or whatever. So are you misrepresenting yourself in that case? Maybe, I don't know. It's a very different conversation, but I think this is more around businesses, and especially when you're getting into the whole territory of trying to turn a profit. So is that a scummy move? Yes. If I'm going to go out and rent or buy alligator skin shoes that I'm going to return at some point, or a Rolex and that's not mine, whatever,
or a fake Rolex, and
exactly
play it off as a real,
right? That's just shady. That's bullshit, is what it is. So yes,
it sells.
I know that's
the stuff that sells in the pick selling right now.
Yeah,
is not even really the record. It's the whole look how sick my life is.
The
look
appearance.
at all the stuff I have.
Yes,
you want this stuff? Buy the picks.
Yes.
It's weird.
Look. Remember when we did that TikTok reaction episode where Zach wanted he was going to have a
Jeep
stroke?
Rubicon?
I could see the nerve in his neck.
The fact that the Jeep Rubicon was the car, though, was the comedy of that thing. Because that, again, it's not a bad car, but
to flex that.
he flexed it from the passenger seat of the car like it was his own.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It was his mother's car or something like that. But that's the type of stuff that we can see that. Here's the difference, right? We can see that. 10 years ago, me could have easily been duped by that. And it's a cycle because people can be duped by it. Then it's just going to happen more and more because there's enough people out there that are willing to do that. But again, I'm probably going to say it a million times in this episode. For me, it's making sure that profit does not exceed ethics. Go ahead, Zach.
That literally had an 18-year-old car rumbling into the lot, and they had him renting a Lamborghini. I mean, so now do we think that guy's evil? I mean, that's the question, right?
Misrepresenting. And I've had a guy buy that I loaned $10,000 to because he's like, hey, I'm going to be the cameras are going to be rolling. I need to be able to show that I'm making bets. Can you help me out with a little
So just for today?
No, this was 10 years ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And when was the cameras rolling? What was the event?
I don't want to disclose it.
Okay. All right. So So in this story, if you're keeping score, Fez he had so much that he could have his money for the. You were involved in the shoot too, right?
No, actually, I was not.
Okay. Well, when I was on Ballers and I had that big wad of bills in my hand, was that yours, Fez?
That was
I don't
not.
remember. No, okay. Fez, can you come down with some money?
That was the Rocks.
I tell you, I love that because that was my idea. I just showed up and go, "You think he's a good prop?" He goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right, good."
Did you ever watch
I
Ballers?
held it tight, you know.
Did I?
I don't know how bad I think that is. I think that the very premise of Instagram is misrepresenting your reality.
Yes.
Right? Isn't there's all kinds of psychological studies how everyone's judging themselves against this fake perception and that they all think they fall short?
Yeah.
It's a good point.
So if everyone's using a filter,
Or makeup, like if that's like someone dressing up in fancy clothes is just like an ugly girl putting on enough makeup to come across as pretty. And
so you're judging girls again?
no, I'm just saying that happens, and it's like no one says, "Oh, she's a terrible person because she wears makeup." She's just trying to present herself in a certain way.
We got a supervisor in because
So there's a lot of things here, but we also have to talk about like the nature of the industry, which people just gloss over all the time, right? We're in an industry that leads to a lot of addiction problems. You know what I'm saying? Like someone putting on makeup to make them, to sell more. It's a day-to-day part of life. It's not going to send someone down a path of like they're going to be living on the streets because they bought too many nail polishes or perfumes or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Sports betting is very different because there's an addiction element associated with it, unlike 99.9% of the industries out there, right?
I'd say more industries are addiction focused than you realize if you really think about it.
Very possible.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There's an element to that. We need to be careful in sports betting.
Yeah. So like, again, you can have like these debates where you're just like using all of these examples, and it's like, well, do you call this like misleading? In a lot of cases, it's all misrepresentation, but in some cases, it's much less harmful.
But honestly, Rob, like my honest opinion, like it's like this in every industry. Once you realize it and you really start to see
very
it,
possible.
Like here's an example. Okay, I don't even want to shit on like specific brands. Okay, but let's say like just to keep it general, a soda pop.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
The marketing in that soda is so predatory towards you drinking that and getting essentially addicted to that product and continuously consuming that product that is bad for you. Okay. That's one simple example that you might be seeing. But like now truly watch those ads and see how it is and like how they're portrayed and how deep they go into the mind. And that's one industry. I just gave a simple example, not to shit on any company.
Well, there's lots. Like think about the commercials to kids, the cereal commercials.
Hundreds of thousands. Exactly. So when we're talking about marketing, I've said this for a while, like people think sports betting is brutal. They're like, oh, it's all these touts, all predatory. Like I thought that as well when I was younger. Now I realize every single industry, you won't find a single industry that doesn't have these exact same tactics, this exact same marketing ploy, the whole get a 6-pack in 30 days. That's all it is.
Yeah. It's a good point. I mean, listen, I'm not, like, I've never worked in marketing. I've never really thought about this. Like, I built my own brand, my own personal brand. Like, how did I get to whatever following I got on Twitter? By, like, live tweeting football games. And
yeah,
just
or organically
being myself.
just being yourself.
You're being myself. So I come from it with a little bit of a different perspective because, and again, this is not to like make me seem like a saint or whatever, but I've always felt it unnatural or uncomfortable to sell myself as something that I'm not. It's just not me. I mean, that's just the honest to God truth. It's just not me. So when I see other people do it, it's very hard for me to resonate with that. And I naturally associate it with being scummy in some way, whether that's right or wrong. And again, I'm opinionated. You might think my opinions are way out in left field, and that's totally fine. I mean, how many people approached me after this BetBash panel that said, great job, and how many people approached me that said, like, oh, you're a hypocrite because you do the exact same thing? Or I'm like, expand on that. Tell me more. And they do. I'm like, okay, that's fair. Here's my counter argument to that. But like, they might not buy it, and that's totally fine. But I don't like comparing the other industries. And maybe that's just me at a personal level because of my experiences. And maybe you're right. Like a lot of this is just way more harmful than I realized.
All I'm saying is like in general, people typically tend to be super negative, right? In anything. Like you're more negative than positive. Hang around negative people. You're in a community of, let's say on Twitter, where it's super negative. And then what happens is you think that the stuff you see is the worst possible stuff.
Yeah.
But I guess all I'm trying to say really is like in terms of like predatory marketing in sports betting, yes, it exists. It exists anywhere though. And the amount of people that complain about it and think that like guys like, oh, Rob doesn't know this and he's this and they hate him, or like even RJ Fezzik's the worst because he does this. Like, man, everyone's just a human being. They're all trying to make money. They're all trying to do something. It's not that bad. Like, it's not the end of the world. Like if people were to just actually truly understand the downward spiral of the negativity they're in, I don't think they would even care this much about this stuff.
That's a very valid point.
They look at Fezzik and like, this guy's a scam or whatever. And then they go buy a Kit Kat bar at the store and they didn't realize. And then they go buy a Ford Focus, the Motor Trend's truck of the year, and they don't realize that's the same shit that just happened, just in a different scale. And sure, one might be more clear because it's like man to man and you understand the industry. But you know those car companies manufacture these random awards and all these things that they can say that the number one this. And then they market to you and they have all these commercials and whatever for you to go buy the thing. It's the same thing.
It's hard for me to get out of the mindset that it isn't the same thing. I can understand the argument. I know that like for me, like buying a pick from Vegas Dave to me is like what Vegas Dave is doing is a million times worse in my mind. That's not to say that it is. It's just hard for me to get over that. And maybe listen, everyone.
His is like one of the nut lows. So you don't compare Vegas Dave to like one of those big cola companies.
Yeah.
But you can compare Vegas Dave to like someone else who's like just scamming in a different industry, selling like fake jewelry or something like that. You know what I mean?
I think what you have in my personal case is someone who's very vocal about things, opinionated. I will share those. Like lots of people just like stew and they keep it to themselves. They'll never say anything. Like I'm not that person, never have been. So you have like these personality traits, and then me just going through the life experience of being 16 and like losing money betting on sports, and then getting to be 19 and 20 and finding a bunch of touts and thinking that, oh, I'm just going to play these guys free picks, and then the good ones, I'm going to buy their packages and I'm going to be set, and then like losing money that way. And then getting to 23 and 24 and finding people on Twitter and going through the same cycle of like just trusting people that market in themselves in a good way. So it gives me.
Realize when I was 16, I wasted all my money at McDonald's.
Oh, so did I. mean, that was another
and
problem.
And there's people right now that don't even realize that that's
true.
For you. So it's the same. Forget it. It's not the same.
Well,
thing.
McDonald's had the day of the week when I was younger.
Value picks menu.
Yeah, $3.99.
Talk about value.
Yeah, except for Friday with Filet-O-Fish, which I wasn't a big fan of personally.
Wait, hold up. I gotta ask you a question. Okay, this is not my opinion. But I gotta ask you. Do you like the Filet-O-Fish?
I like the Filet-O-Fish. Okay. Yes.
All right.
But it wasn't the one of the week.
Okay, the argument's over. Basically like
I like fish sandwiches with mayo and whatever. Like I'm into that.
So what happened was someone was asked, "Hey, you like the Filet-O-Fish?" Like, no, worst thing on the menu at McDonald's. And the response was, "You ever had one?" And then the guy's like, "Nah, you got me. I've never had one." And to this day, anytime someone mentions the Filet-O-Fish, I say, "You like the Filet-O-Fish?"
Yeah.
And anybody who says no, I say, "You ever had one?" And I'm like, maybe 17 for 17. They're like, "You know what? Actually, no, I've never had one." Yeah. I just don't like fish
like it's
sandwiches.
It's one thing if you don't like fish. I get that. Like if you say, "Oh, Filet-O-Fish is terrible" because you don't like fish. Well, of course you're gonna think,
of course,
right? It's like, this tofu burger is terrible. I hate tofu. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, that's just my personal opinion. But those
the Filet-O-Fish,
the value days were absurd.
Oh, the inflation is nuts, though.
This is $3.99 combo. This is when I was in high school.
You're obviously even older than me, but I used to go $1.29 McDoubles. Oh. Go get a McDouble now. It's like
it's over $3.
$3.79.
I know. I did one the other day.
Man, the kids are getting broke these days. What's going on?
But you know what? It's a good point because I guess at the end of the day, eating McDonald's literally every day probably contributed to me going towards being broke. but I always associate it with like the gambling.
But also,
because there's so much
going broke financially is only half the battle. Eating McDonald's every day contributes to you becoming unhealthy, which is even worse.
It's a good perspective. Honestly, I didn't come into this with that perspective, but it's fair. I mean, I do see how the arguments that you're comparing for, like, especially in this podcast, that they compare from other industries can be.
I know it's not the same thing, but all I'm saying is there's similarities, very big similarities between every industry. And for those of you listening to this podcast who are in sports but you think it's the worst thing ever, I can assure you it's not. And there's differences in other industries that are just as bad. And for those of you who are in other industries thinking, what the hell, how is this guy getting this? It's the same. So very similar in every industry.
I'm just shaped by personal experiences. Is all.
Yeah. Let's go.
Go ahead, Zach.
Okay, so this is the same section, but I skipped ahead a couple minutes because that conversation leads to them rating chicks on Reddit. So
we can skip over that. We don't.
All right. So where's the line, guys?
I think the line is if you are misrepresenting yourself in a way to, I guess I can say, scam your audience, then that's crossing the line.
But isn't everything we're talking about misrepresenting?
Yes, but to what ends?
All right.
Yeah, I wouldn't use the word scam. I think misrepresent is not
his point.
His point
is that's the line.
That's crossing the line. Yeah.
But so what is scamming?
Well, the other thing is like,
Well, let him, and then it's on you. Go ahead.
Scamming is not supplying the returns on the customer's investment, whatever that investment is.
So if someone doesn't win,
maybe not necessarily win, but not have the lifestyle that you are portraying that they can have with your representation. But it's the same thing as if saying like, I don't work for a team or whatever, but yet I'm selling tickets to an event that they're not real tickets. But I'm putting it out there that I'm representing myself as I go to the game. I'm sitting at the 50-yard line. I got great seats. You can have these seats too.
Right. So let's define what he's saying, because I think there's something here important. Is if there's something that is intrinsically definable, and that's the key. Good and bad isn't, right? All Plato's about that. Yep. But the question is it quality information, or is it a fugazi? Is it inauthentic? Is it counterfeit? Let's use that word. Is it counterfeit or not counterfeit?
Example, I say my record's 118 and 100. I'm having a winning year, but I'm laying minus 123 on average of my plays. So I'm actually down for the year.
Now, that's a different thing. That's lying about an objective truth. So let's agree.
Yes.
Lying about your record is next on my tiers. Right? But I do think, and maybe there's not going to be an answer, we'll go back for one more try. I think this idea of counterfeit or not counterfeit, if you're selling something that's inauthentic, that's not, or that's counterfeit, then you're selling something. Doesn't matter how you sell it in a way, it's that you're selling something. If I say this is gold and it's not, and I sell it, I've done something wrong. The real question is, and it's back to Rob Pizzola and whomever, who's the arbiter of what's authentic or not? If it's something like opinion. Because all a pick is an opinion.
Sure. But then haven't places started to put like disclaimers, like this is for entertainment purpose only, or we do not claim to be experts in the field.
And that's where
but even expert people say that, because you can be liable. I mean, the original of that, this is for entertainment only, was the Wire Act, in which Bob Martin, one of the first lines makers ever, one of the most respected guys in the history of Vegas, went to jail over the Wire Act. Literally pick up the phone, someone in Chicago says, hey, what's the line on this game? If he told him, he goes to jail over that, because that was the way. There were the wire rooms. That's the only way people got the line. There wasn't any Don Best or whatever. The way to get the line was to call Vegas, and that's why, remember, Fez, out of the Stardust, those bank of phones.
6 phones there.
There were more than 6. Or it was like 12 or something.
There were a whole bunch of them. Yeah, and I used them. Absolutely.
Okay, so
what are you going to say? What's the difference between what's considered scamming?
Well, so by the way, this is actually an interesting conversation. I will listen to the pod in full after this, but there's like, it would be inherently challenging for me to define like what is a scam, like what is right and wrong in this, and this would be my own definition, but it would be very hard as someone who's lived through this. Like, I've been betting more than half my life. I've been betting professionally for several years. There's like not a thought like I see something it's hard to disclose this. It's like the Spidey sense, you know, Spider-Man. You see something and you're like, this is a scam. Like, or you can't describe it, but just like as a seasoned bettor, you're able to look at something instantaneously and say like, this is wrong. This is wrong. Plain and simple. This is wrong. You know what I'm getting at? Like, I know that they're trying to arrive at a definition of like, and it's a good exercise in doing so. And Scott Seidenberg brings up like some interesting scenarios, and he talks about misrepresentation as well. But like, lumping everything into like scam or whatever is not the way that I personally think about things. I just think about things in right and wrong. And I'll go back to I'll repeat it over and over, right? Like, I got a decision to make for the Hammer. We want to profit as a business. We have a board of directors. We have people who genuinely want to make money. I'm the CEO of the Hammer because I want to make money. This is a life play for me. I love doing content. We want to monetize, but it comes down to, okay, we can do this, but ethically, does this make sense? That's how I make decisions, honest to God. That's how it happens. And in a lot of these instances, like, you know, they'll go around here and they'll talk about this. And I think in their mind, like in RJ's mind, he probably thinks that what they're doing at pregame is totally morally acceptable. It's fine. We're running a business. Yeah, of course we have to market ourselves. That's what every tout business is going to do. How are we going to get pick sales if we don't market ourselves? Of course we put, you know, if someone's hot, we elevate them to the top of the page, right? And that's fine. That's a business. But like, I would already just go to the site and say like, okay, you're going to advertise that every single pick is there. Technically, that's correct. Every single pick in the history is there. But having someone have to go through.
Yeah, but imagine they could only see one pick per 24 hours.
Yeah, like
then it's like, okay, this is really there.
So to me, that's like, okay, it's not an outright scam, but it's like immoral in a sense, right? Like, if you're going to put all the picks up on the site, give the people a filter to see all time. Like, there's not a filter where I could see all time record from somebody, or just filter by sport. Like, if you want to run a legitimate service, that's what I would say. That, in my opinion, again, it's not a scam, but it's like, there's an ethical boundary that's crossed. And that's my own personal thoughts on that. But like, I don't know, am I ever going to be able to like come up with a definition of like, this is morally right, this is morally wrong? No, it's like on a case by case basis. There's just so many things that come up where, like, you know, somebody recapping their winning days on Twitter, but never recapping a losing day. Like, it's not a scam. It's just a shitty thing to do.
I mean, a true scam by definition would be like, as he mentioned, if you said something was gold, you sold it as gold, it wasn't gold. Like,
yes, that 100% that's a scam, right?
But and obviously that happens. It happens out there. But now it's into like marketing tactics.
Yes.
And what marketing tactic is offline?
Exactly. Where do you cross the boundary with marketing tactics? And I don't know that there's a good situation there, but I do feel like I have the right to call that out, as does anybody. People can call out the Hammer. Like, they can call out this podcast and be like, oh, you guys collect money from a sports book. I mean, there's someone in the comments, right? It's like, oh, you're going to send players to Pinnacle. It's a sharp sports book, right? It's like, well, yes, it's a sharp sports book, but like, we preach why we go to Pinnacle, everyday competitive. Like, you're going to find the best price at Pinnacle like half the time. You're going to do that. If you're a bettor that gets limited, go play there, because you're not going to get limited. Like, we preach why, and to me, maybe it's a way of convincing myself that it's morally acceptable, but I feel like we're arming people with that information without them having to like dig through and find it or learn the hard way. Do you know what I'm getting at?
I do, and same with me. Like, I'm with you. Like, you're. There's nothing wrong with sending someone to this if you think it's gonna be good. But yeah, at the end of the day, man, like, I don't even know exactly what they're getting at though. Like, I'm not fully into this combo here. Like, I understand, but I feel like we need a little more context. Like, if they're just saying who's the police of like this,
that is kind of what it's getting
stuff. It's like, okay, well, at the end of the day, there is no police for this.
Correct.
The person makes their own decisions.
Yes.
In other businesses, there is like, oh, this regulatory body that has to approve these marketing conditions and these ingredients on packaging and things like that. So there's like somewhat of a police here.
But even that's bullshit in a lot of industries, as well as paid for stickers and whatever.
It's the same thing I mentioned. Like, at what point is I don't know which company it is, but like the Ford Motor Trends Truck of the Year award.
Yeah.
At what point He's like, yes, okay, did it win that award? Yes. Did Ford make that company up last year and just give it Car the award? Also, yes. So at what point is that scamming someone versus marketing your product around? No one knows. Like, who's the police? I don't know. You got to make your own decision.
I watched a documentary on Netflix. It's a food doc called Poisoned, and it was about the U.S. food system. And specifically, there's like 2 major companies that manufacture chickens or like breed chickens or whatever. And then they send the eggs down to 4 companies who then like get them ready or whatever. And that's like who sends it out into market. And there's supposed to be like salmonella checks and all this shit. The industry is just policed by a company that just decided they were going to be the ones to police it. And the implication is that they're getting paid under the table or something by those actual 4 chicken manufacturing companies. So like, I'm not an idiot. Like, this happens across the world. Like, people, there's no policing of the sports betting industry. There's regulators for sportsbooks in the individual markets. The rest of this stuff, there never will be, which is why, like, I feel that I'm at least entitled to regularly voice my opinion on a lot of this stuff. And candidly, I think the people who get most upset with me about voicing this stuff is people who are selling stuff on top of it, who are just like, who are you to say that I can't do this and that? And I'm not saying that you can't. I'm just saying that you should do it in a way that's not immoral.
Yeah. All right.
Let's get to where they talk about circles off specifically, Zach.
So, Fez, I have found you guilty of this kind of stuff in the past. You say, I do this, so that's okay, but everything to the south of here is a problem. Do you kind of see where that's off at this point? I get why you want to feel that, but do you see where, hey, there's people remember, you went on some podcast and they were attacking you. It's like, how can you say you're a professional if you do this? And
if you're such a great world-class professional, why don't you have a betting, of $30 million? How come it's below that?
Yes. Yeah, I stick by that, by the way, 100%.
Yeah, pause that for a sec. Yeah, I mean, that's it was a fair question.
Oh, I stick by that 1,000,000%. Go ahead, Zach. Hit play.
And that was a person who was being sanctimonious, that was deciding by his critique, by his values, you fell short of it.
Yes, and the irony is...
Now, by the way, you acquitted yourself really well in that case.
Thank you very much. And the irony was that was on the Circles Off podcast with Rob Pizzola and Johnny. And Johnny came after me, but Rob...
But do you see no, here's the thing. It's easy I told you at the time, didn't I? I go, Rob was defending you. You go, yeah. I go, but was that guy on the show the next week? Yeah. That's the thing. It's nice to have an attack dog that does what you want.
I've literally never attacked anyone, by the way, on this pod.
Agreed.
So I don't consider that attack on Fez.
I also don't consider what I was doing a defense, by the way. I'll get into that in a second.
I'll simply say that my argument was rooted in straight logic, and I stick by it 100% and will not back down for that. If Fez was betting the way he said and had the edge he said, his bankroll should be significantly more than $30 million. I can map out the math for all you guys and prove real life examples. And by the way, tons of people that I met at BetBash were like, dude, 100% you're right. I don't even know how this is an argument. Like, this is simple mathematics that's going on.
Did you meet Fezzik at BetBash?
I met him for honestly 30 seconds, and I was like, hey, and I wanted to talk to him about it, just to not even hash it out. It's not like an argument. We don't. If those of you who don't know me in person, I'm a very, very easygoing guy. I'm not trying to argue with people ever. Not even podcast, nothing. I'm just trying to anything. But I didn't get a chance to actually talk to him for a long period of time. I wanted to, but as I mentioned at the start of this, BetBash was crazy. People coming up to me all the time. I'm going here, got to run here. Okay, we got a dinner here. This guy wanted to meet. So I didn't get a chance to, but I will in the future.
I actually am going to listen back or watch back that episode as well, because when I was sitting next to you and we were chatting with Fezzik, I didn't get the feeling that I was defending him. I just didn't want to pile on. I don't think it would have done a great service to the interview. Maybe I'm wrong, but you have to make these calls when you're in the moment in the interview. And generally we have an idea of where we want to go with the guest. But I didn't want to make it seem like he was coming on the podcast and we were just going to both of us were just going to go at him the whole time. I don't think that's going to do a good, first of all, he's giving us his time. Second of all, I can still ask questions and be a neutral party in that conversation without like I don't know. Maybe I did come across as
no. One
defensive.
other thing here,
Yeah.
just for a legit thing here. Okay, for anyone who thinks I'm like attacking people or even just listening to this, it's kind of a little bit annoying. Like Rob sends, if you've been on this podcast, you know Rob sends a question list to every single guest before the show with time in advance to review it, and the message is this: this is what we think would be a good, entertaining episode that we can talk about. If you have anything on this list that's not cool, you don't want to talk about, let me know right now. If there's anything you want to add that you do want to talk about, let me know right now. Okay? We sent that list to Fezzik.
I give one more caveat, by the way. I'm sorry to interrupt you, let you finish. I also let them know that we're not going to just stick to the list. So just to be fair, I do say to everyone, this to me is like a good flow. But if you say something that compels us to have to steer the conversation in a different direction, we are going to do that. Like, I don't like to interview top to bottom question order. I like to have general topics. So I do let the guests know that as well.
Well, and in addition to that, if I'm not mistaken, on Fezzik's list for the show was, hey, we are going to ask you about pick selling. Why do you sell picks?
Yep.
Why do you do it? What are, like, everything in regards
100%.
to it. Okay. And in addition to that, one other thing, which, we don't like to do this, and it's not like we're editing all these episodes. We haven't actually had to do it very often, but we also do tell the guests, hey, if there's something you said on the show that you don't want out there because you think it's going to make you look bad, think it's going to harm something, like, and I'm talking post-recording, we got the best in the biz here.
Yeah.
Producer Zach. We say Zach's going to cut
Best
it out.
in the biz
We're gonna
for,
make it,
producing, not for EV.
Not for circa millions. But serious, we got the best in the biz here. We say Zach can cut anything out. We'll make sure we make you look good. Not to worry. It's a pre-recorded pod. We don't do this live. We're going to make sure that if there's something you say that's like, oh, you know what? I wish I didn't say that on the podcast. No worries. We take that out. Yep. So for an episode to come out of Circles Off, the sheet was sent in advance. The guest has to okay the questions with that on there. And in addition, after the interview, the guest has to okay, yep, perfect. I think it was a good episode. I think it was entertaining. I think it was going to be a lot of fun.
We talked to Fezzik for half an hour off air afterwards.
I know, but by no means do I consider like what I asked him an attack. And in addition to that, as I'm saying right now, 100% stand by and believe everything I said there in regards to him. If he's betting the way he says, and if he has that edge, which he's selling, should have that bankroll. Hit it.
My 2 cents really quickly on this were that you asked questions and you didn't feel like you were getting justifiable answers, and you continued to press on those questions, which I think if you're in media or journalism or do whatever, that's just natural. And I personally don't think what you did in that interview was unfair. I think those are questions.
I'm not in media or journalism. I do this podcast for fun.
100%. But like that to me, like if you're getting answers that you feel personally like don't vibe, or you can sense, there's something tingling and you're like, no, I don't like, and you want to press, that to me is always okay, period. The guest is there representing themselves. They can't answer questions, or, if the host and guest disagree, like it's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, like I kind of think that's a little bit, obviously RJ's going to say that.
No, I didn't, like, it was not an attack, but if it comes across that, I guess it was an attack. If it comes across as that, so it is what it is, But
yeah,
we talk. You can say we talked for half an hour after. I'll share my thoughts on after. Like I will share my thoughts. Let's listen to the rest of this, and then I got because people were saying, oh, why didn't you like attack Brad Powers then? If you're going to attack, I'll explain it. Go ahead.
Yep.
And then you can seem like the reasonable one.
I might have been bristling more. I was sitting next to him during this
and you were defending each other. I mean, I don't listen. I like Rob. Yep. We all people might say RJ because he was a outlaw once. He's too sympathetic to outlaws. We all got our experience.
Darren said, you have a bad reputation to Rob Pizzola, and I said, Rob Pizzola has a great reputation.
I think he said impeccable.
Impeccable is what he said.
Isn't that the quote, Scott?
Oh, I'll get the quote. Yeah,
it was impeccable.
He said impeccable.
Is that, you agree with that? Was that proper?
I don't think. I mean, unless you're talking about for sanctimony.
Yeah, I don't know anyone that's like.
No, I think Rob is legitimate in that he doesn't do anything that could be perceived as illegal or unethical. I find it to be, and again, I'd much rather have someone that's a little too sanctimonious that is naturally ethical and maybe help them see, hey, maybe we shouldn't judge quite as much than someone who's just a scammer that's hard to reform them. Did you have, what was it?
Oh, yeah, no, the word is impeccable. He said, your reputation is impeccable. That's a quote. Direct quote.
I never use that word, too. That's
no, you do.
thing.
You use it pretty regularly.
Never mind.
Thanks, AJ.
And RJ there says, like, Rob doesn't do anything that can be perceived as illegal or unethical. I don't agree with that either. I think a lot of people can perceive what I do as unethical. I don't agree, but like there could be people out there that be like, you work with sportsbooks, you take sportsbook dollars, that makes what you do unethical. I don't agree with that argument, but that can totally be. So like, by the way, Fezzik saying my reputation was impeccable next to me really caught me off guard in that moment. I would have never, I could have never imagined that like all the moments in my life that have like led to this would lead to Fezzik defending my reputation against Darren Ravel. Honestly, can't even believe that happened. But anyways, Johnny, I think the larger conversation here that they're kind of getting through is it's a conversation about the ethics of sports betting, right? And this is a 2-hour long Dream Preview episode. We're not going to listen to the entirety of it overall, but I think that there's a lot of conversation points that are worth discussing. People will have different, opinions on them. They'll lie on different sides of the argument, but it comes down to like, what is considered unethical or immoral in the sports betting space? Who gets to be the arbiter of that and say like, what is real, what is not, what can you do, what can't you do? And honestly, I think it's very interesting discussion, but I don't think that there's a real answer. It's just like everyone is valid, is entitled to their own opinion. The things that really bother me are when people make personal attacks on others. I've voiced that before. I think like at the end of the day, you might not like someone, but they're still a human being, and just treat them with respect. I don't know why that's such a big problem, but arguments happen all the time. Fezzik Powers, is happening right now in real time and has been for the last couple of weeks. Like it's going to happen, but you just don't cross the line and, get to the point where I think it's, nasty type of thing. But I don't know. I've spoken my piece on this, but you do have to answer to why the Powers interview didn't go the same way as the Fezzik interview. I can give some commentary on
I'll give
that
you the
as well.
exact. I'll give you the exact.
I can also speak to my side of things there.
So, first off, anyone who understands betting and limits already understands this. So I don't even know who I'm talking to right now, because most people should easily be able to understand this. If you don't, and if you still don't understand after I explain it, leave a comment, and I'll try to do my best to actually put an Excel spreadsheet down over a 15-year period and really just map out the numbers for you. Okay. So I try to pull up a little bit right now. Here's the main difference between Brad Powers' interview and Steve Fezzik. Okay, Brad Powers, college football originator, Steve Fezzik, NFL originator, does other sports. I'm sure they both do other sports. But in the context of the interview, Brad Powers was talking about how he sells his picks and how he sells his picks because it's a guaranteed source of income, diversifies a little for him, and he's making good money on the pick sales, okay? So Brad Powers is betting, and he's admittedly openly betting college football openers.
Let's say early in the week.
Early in the week or openers, okay? Yep. The limits on this stuff that he's betting without working with a major group or syndicate is within the single-digit thousands, okay? So what I mean by that is like you're probably going to get anywhere between $0 and $9,000 on the play. $9,000 would be pretty impressive for an early week NFL. And again, unless you're working with groups, things like that. Also, if you're not working with groups and you're just on the regular sportsbook accounts, you might have limit cut here, cut here, cut here. You never know where you're going to be able to get down. There's very few places like Pinnacle Sports where you can constantly actually get down. But for those of you who know, Pinnacle limits early in the week, not very high. For college football, obviously, depending on the region of the game. So for Brad Powers, I'm going to throw out some numbers here. Now, just to be clear, I'm not sure if this is the numbers of what he's making from pick sales. I don't know if this is even close. Yep. Okay. Let's say Powers makes $100,000 from his pick sales. And let's say Fezzik makes $100,000 from his pick sales. Okay. That's a significant amount of money. $100,000 is not a lot of money. Not a life-changing amount that's going to set you for life, but also $100K a year. That's higher than the average salary in the US and Canada. That's a lot of money. Okay. When we look at this, the amount that Brad Powers can make on his own from betting, if he is getting, let's say, an average of $2,000 or $3,000 a play, if he has a 35-unit season, he made $70,000. Yep. In order for him to out-earn his pick sales, he would have to have a 50-unit season at 2K or, whatever, equivalent at 4K, 25-unit season winner. I'm assuming he's picking spreads and totals at minus 110. Obviously, it's not the case, but for the simplicity of this, you guys understand it. If Powers has an incredible year, now he's got an extra 100K in his bankroll. And now let's say he continues to grow that bankroll and he's at 300,000 and he's at $1 million and he's at $2 million in bankroll. He still has the issue that even though he might want to bet 30, 40, 50,000 on those games, because he's betting early week and that's his edge, he doesn't have the ability to bet 30,000 on a game. Due to that, if Powers had $1 billion or 300,000, he's still betting the exact same amount of money. Therefore, it does not scale. There's no one who he's able to cross with. There's no group he's able to, work with that's going to give him $3, $4, $5 million a year to actually be able to provide value out of those picks. In that scenario, which he's open with, doing stuff like media, doing stuff like selling your picks that makes an extra couple $100,000 a year, insanely plus EV, diversified revenue stream. There you go. That's why I don't have an issue with it. Okay. To be clear, I also don't have an issue with Fezzik's model, which is I'm going to sell my picks for NFL. But here is where I question Fezzik and say, hey, it doesn't make sense. The reason is, let's say Fezzik makes $100,000 for his picks. And again, I'm not sure that's the amount, but assume it is. For Fezzik, if he has been a documented winner for 20 years, and I'm not sure what the exact claims are, if I need to and people still don't understand it after this, I will go through and get his record by year, whatever best I can possibly find, and I will map it out, and I will Kelly stake the exact things, and I will prove to you how he should have, at this point, a bankroll that is well into the tens of millions. And if you have a bankroll well into the tens of millions, maybe let's say your bankroll's 30, 40 million, then every NFL game that you have an edge on, if you still do, which he claims he does, you should be hammering that number until it's no longer in place. Therefore, you make even more money. So, to put it into perspective, I just went on pregame right now. I pulled open Fezzik's record. Again, as Rob said, it's kind of hard to see current season. It doesn't actually have it here, but I'm looking. It's $100 picks. Okay, so it's like about even. So that'll be 4, 3. He's up about.
It's tough, man. You're gonna have to go day by day.
One,
you're gonna have to backtrack on this all-time record thing, but because if you're gonna go day by
3,
day, it's
4,
gonna take
5,
you
6.
3 weeks.
He's up. It says current season. He's up about 60 units. Okay, again, give or take. I can calculate it after. If he's up 60 units in the current season, if he was up 60 units in his first season, let's say he started with $50,000. Now he's grown his bankroll big time. Okay, Kelly staking. Every year that's compounded. By this point, this guy should have, if he's winning 66 units a year, or this is just current season, it looks like he's even promoting more than this. How is he not a multi-billionaire at this point? And this is all I'm saying is Fezzik had claimed on the show, he said, I give out NFL picks on Sunday morning, and those picks, those numbers are available. If they are available, Pinnacle, sponsor of the show, $100K a click.
Yep.
With rebet on a 1 cent move, meaning if you have an edge at minus 105 and you're willing to bet that to an average price of minus 110, that's $1 million you get down. 1 cent move every time, you're going to get down roughly $1 million. For simplicity, may not move like that. Eventually, after a couple hits, they'll move the number further, whatever. But leveraging every book, every out that you have, that's not going to limit you. Pinnacle, Circa, a few other books that we all know. Getting down into the mid 7 figures, extremely easy. Easier than getting $9,000 down on Brad Powers' early week
college football,
out of conference college football stuff.
Yep.
So that's the simple argument for me is this. If you're betting NFL and you're claiming there's still an edge and you've won super contests, when do you win the super contest? Years ago. So you at least has that bankroll that we know for sure that's been in there, plus the pick selling services, plus all this stuff. Fezzik's response was, how could I have a family? Oh, you have a family. And I'm not trying to be condescending here or whatever. I'm explaining the math. Anybody who knows. It's very simple. If you had an edge betting NFL during Sunday morning at the high limits, and you've had that edge for 20 years, you are a billionaire.
Fair enough. Well said.
Do you agree or disagree?
So I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but with like I think that there's some nuance here that could be discussed, right? You're very driven, like you have an edge in sports betting. You're very driven by maximizing that edge, making money, whatever, and that's totally fine. Like lots of people strive to that. And for a large part of my life, like when I had my peak edge in NHL, like that was all I could think about is like, how am I going to extract the most money this year? But there are people that lose that drive. And maybe in Fezzik's case, which he didn't articulate, by the way, at least not to my recollection, maybe it's not just like money for him, and his appetite to grow is not the same as yours. So I think that there could be potential disagreement there, right? Like his motivation in betting might not be, I want to make as much money as humanly possible.
No, but Rob, I know maybe I'm different in mindset, but it doesn't exist. Like you're not going to even bother doing the work to make $100,000 selling picks. If you're making $30 million a year betting football, you're not going to put the effort in to even type those picks. And the 100,000 in sales is going to erode your ability to make 30 or $60 million. Like, so when we're talking this here, I don't accept the excuse of, well, you know, I don't really care that much about betting. I'm happy to make 100,000 betting and 100,000 my thing. I mean, listen, maybe there's people who think like that.
Yeah.
But it's so far-fetched to believe that someone who actually believes what she said on the podcast. Yes, I have an edge betting football. The numbers are there. I give it out. I asked him, I said, do you think people who buy your service will win? He said, yes. He said, yes, and they're marketing it. 30
100%.
units, 20 units, 50 units, 60 units, whatever it is here. It's hard to find the exact amounts.
Yeah.
They continually market that. 30 units of NFL is on Sunday morning is $60 million.
Yeah,
if you have the right role. It's $60 to $150 million if you have the right role. And what I mean by if you have the right role is it's possible to get that amount down.
Yeah.
I'm not saying everyone should be betting that much. I'm not saying there even are people betting that much. What I'm saying is it's possible. It's been done. People can do it.
Yeah. I'm not going to make any more. Like at the end of the day, he had his opportunity to give his own answers on the situation, right? And when I ran into him at BetBash, we were talking a little bit, not very long, but about that interview in specific. And again, this is just my like opinion or my read of him on the situation. It could be entirely untrue, but my read was that I think he wished he had a do-over on a couple of questions and could have voiced them a bit better.
We can definitely do it again. And I want to also give my thoughts on Fezzik as a bettor, by the way, because this is, despite what I just said here, I will tell you this about Fezzik. Do I think he wins? Actually, yes, I do. I genuinely think he wins. Do I think he wins at NFL? Yes, I do. And I think he's won an NFL for a long time. Obviously, you know, might have had a losing season in here or there, but I genuinely would back him if you told me, hey, I got to stake up my own money. Would I bet for Fezzik to win on NFL this year? Yes, no. I'm betting the yes, max bet, easily. However, with that being said, do I think that his Sunday morning available lines over the course of the NFL season are going to be profitable for subscribers? No. If I did, I would buy those picks and I would jam them with my own money.
Yep.
And then I too would have $100 million and then eventually $1 billion. So therefore, I don't mean to disrespect the guy in any way. I'm just explaining the concept of how the liquidity works in the market and the answers of, I have a family. Like, I don't really understand how that plays into the mathematics that I'm showing or, you know, can show in terms of like actually providing. And Fezzik's he's great at math. Yeah. I'm pretty sure
he's an actuary.
He's an actuary.
Yeah.
He knows the calculations better than me, right? So that's all I'm trying to say there. But in terms of Fezzik, like he actually is super sharp in the way he handicaps and the way he bets. He's found countless edges over the year. I used to listen to him prior to him being on the podcast, even prior to me even, you know, when I was way younger, when I was just getting into sports betting, I used to listen to him. So actually mad respect for him as an actual bettor, as well as like a mind, because he is very sharp.
Plus EV, minus EV. You already gave your minus EV. Zach, got to get it together, bro. Yeah, but Matty Simo, honestly, at Vegas _Matty, he's a good proxy and literally does not pay me. I'm just telling you I've used Matty Simo as a proxy for many, many years. This is all I'm going to say. I'll end this conversation now. Never made a mistake. I've heard horror stories from everyone else that has had to do stuff in Vegas. Do you have a plus EV for the week? You mark these all down, huh? I got to start doing this.
Well, let me actually go to my thing. So I just write them down like if I think of them throughout
smart.
life,
That's
and
smart.
then I'll see.
I have some. I wrote them down while Johnny finds them. If you want me to go here,
Go ahead, Zach.
Okay, so I went to Circa this past weekend, and we did the Hit the Book show there. So that was incredible. My first time in Vegas. That's kind of why I was there and signed up for the contest. Plus EV, live TV on planes. I've never been on a plane with live TV.
Oh, it's a banger.
My day flight on Thursday had the live TV. I sat down and I was like, oh my God, like I'm locked in.
Yeah.
Watched the tour championship for 3.5 hours on the flight. It was the best. I honestly had never experienced that before. That was plus EV. That was incredible.
Yep.
I had never experienced that.
Yep. I'm a big fan. Live TV on planes is a game changer. And then you connect to the Wi-Fi and you throw some live betting on while you're on the I'm not joking.
That's going to be like delays in the live betting. You cannot be doing that.
Gotta wait till the commercial breaks, man.
So I got a plus EV written down. It's actually it's a plus EV from Live Dog Luke.
Yeah, big fan.
Part of the Spanky crew. I call him Luke the Man. That's what I'm going to continue to call him. It's I don't want to be saying, oh, Luke. Oh, which Luke? Spanky's guy. Nah, listen. Yes, he's on Spanky's team, but he's his own guy. Luke the Man. That's what I call him now. So if I ever say Luke the Man, it's Live Dog Luke. We were at BetBash. He came up to get a drink, and I said, oh, I have an extra here. Have it. He said, that's the most negative EV move ever. It's an open bar. I'll just get my own. Like, I don't know what happened. So happened, and we laughed about it. Day later, he comes to the other bar. Again, I'm there, and he's like, oh, I'm just going to get a water. And I'm like, I actually have an extra water. And he's like, buddy, negative EV. Got his own water. So the positive EV move is, at an open bar, get your own drink. Get a fresh drink. It's an open bar.
Yeah, 100%. There's no downside.
All right, what do you got? And I already gave my negative EV, which, by the way, it wasn't about the super contest. The negative EV play is not asking friends for help when you could potentially.
I did ask friend for help.
I will say, based off the conversation,
negative EV is asking Pizzola specifically for help.
Based off the conversation, there could have been a little bit more context and like questions provided.
In which?
He just asked me, how do you sign up to
I know.
How do you get a proxy?
He gave you
the answer.
He's like, yeah, this is the guy I use, but he didn't even tell you, like, you didn't even ask him, like, am I getting absolutely rinsed?
Yeah, what's typical fee or whatever, how much, like that kind of stuff. I would have been in a bad mood because I think I was golfing at the time you sent that to me. But either way, I probably would have got back to you.
But, okay, yeah, fair enough. I just assumed that was normal price based on, like, you were like, oh, I'm not throwing you on the bus here, but that was the person you recommended.
Yeah.
I'm like,
but
okay,
for context,
right.
I signed up for 15 contests.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not negative for him because he's splitting the vig across multiple bets.
Get it. I got it.
Understood.
Yeah.
Wait, and let's not forget converting the money at the ATM with the credit card.
Yeah, there's a lot of mistakes happen. We need to have a conversation.
Definitely played the 8.5% resort fee.
You definitely played the roulette wheel with 3 zeros.
No,
there's not one at Circa. Plus EV for me, this is actual advice. Maybe this is stuff that like people knew about beforehand. I never knew about this shit before. I don't wear dress shoes a lot. I had my sister's wedding last week. My dress shoes didn't come in time, so I had to run out the night before, like 8:30 as the mall was closing, to buy a pair of dress shoes that would match my suit. But I have issues with dress shoes generally where they like wear down the back, like the Achilles area of my leg. And it's bothered me forever. I've never been able to find a comfortable pair of dress shoes. Little did I know they actually sell these soft pads that you can put in on the back of a dress shoe. Absolute game changer. Did not feel them forever. So don't be an idiot like me and wear dress shoes that are painful forever. Get yourself one of these little pads that goes around the back at the Achilles. It's soft. It's really nice. You can dance. You can do whatever you got to do. Plus EV. It's like $6. I don't know which companies make them. Doesn't matter. Just get them. Minus EV. Consuming content that you don't actually like. And people might say, like, why would you do this? Why would you consume
We're
content
about
that
to
you don't?
lose half our subscribers.
Well, you get.
Go ahead, Rob. Continue.
Well, you know what? BetPod ratings definitely does not like Circles Off. He just continues to listen. Thank you very much for listening, by the way, every single week and promoting our episodes. I do appreciate that. But consuming content that you don't actually like, you get messages on like WhatsApp and Telegram and Signal from your friends are like, oh, check this out. And you can read the title and you're like, I'm really not interested in this. But like, all right, the problem is once you go down this like and start clicking on all these things that your buddies are sending you, or these podcasts that are like rattling you. Like people are like, oh, check out what Simon Hunter said. I'm like, I'm not going to listen to it. You know why? Because now my feeds are just full of shit content that I don't actually want to ever see in my life. So I've gone down, I've made big mistakes. YouTube, I did like some competitive analysis on YouTube and I went to other sports betting channels and started watching the videos. I should have done this under a burner account because now I'm getting fed the worst sports betting content imaginable. WhatsApp, like clicks into Instagram. You should see the shit I get recommended on Instagram now. It's very bad. These algorithms, they pick up quick. They think you like something and you're watching something and you're clicking into it regularly. You're going to get force-fed that for a long time. So do not consume content that you don't actually like unless it's this specific
And keep
podcast.
Yeah.
On top of that, before we end, thank you for tuning in, everyone out there, and supporting the show. Obviously, click the like button, subscribe, and all that. Football season is right around the corner. Hit the Books is absolutely killing it right now in terms of viewership. And I will say, we finally got Joey Knisha mic. The next episode of Hit the Books, you're going to hear him with an actual microphone. If he plugs it, like I can't force him to plug it in because we've done this before with him.
I will force him.
But
Joey Crystal Clear, baby. Joey
Crystal Clear will be
Clear.
back. Knish and Powers, it's honestly the
By
best
the way,
show.
the real reason, if you listen this long, that I didn't chirp Powers and I was chirping Fezzik is because Powers is part of the Hammer Betting Network. Like and subscribe.
Yes. Douglas Farmer, Parker Fleming on Wednesdays, Never Punt, Never Parlay. I'm very proud of the college football content. So if you haven't checked out the Hit the Books YouTube channel, do that. You can also check it out in podcast form. And Forward Progress, powered by Pinnacle, during the NFL season, starting next week, we are going to be live 6 days a week, Monday through Friday. And then Sunday, 2 shows, pizza buffet with myself in the mornings, and then the recap show at night with Clive Bixby as well. So we have live content every single day. It's the usual cast and crew. Me, Clive, Fabian Somer, Eric Eager, Hitman, George, G-Stack George, Sharp Clark. I'm missing people all over the place. Jeff Feinberg. We got it all. So Forward Progress on YouTube. And check it out in podcast form.
We are
got
so
one more
back,
thing.
baby. We are so back.
Football's
NFL.
back. Let's go.
I got one last thing. It's a brand new show on Hit the Books. So you obviously see Knish and Powers. But Monday mornings, 9 a.m. Eastern time, Brad Powers release.
We're going to do a Brad Powers release. We're going to see how it goes.
We're gonna see how that steam.
We're going to start with a Brad Powers release show to start the year. And we're going to see how it goes because a credit, by the way, to Adam Chernoff, who like coined this idea. I want to give credit where it's due.
Yeah,
I'm not going to call him. No. Let's not call him Big Churn. I don't think he likes that. I heard him say that before. He's like, "Where the hell did this come from? Big Churn? I'm not big or whatever." I'm like, "No, that's not what we mean by big. Like, it's just, anyways. Never
Churn,
mind.
baby, churn.
Churn, baby, churn is what I like to call him. But yeah.
Also, one other
release
thing.
show.
Right Angle Sports, the actually like originators of the whole release.
Yeah.
I will say this right now. If you're thinking of signing up, again, they crushed CLV, record on BetStamp. Hit me up personally, Circles Off, at Circles Off HQ on Twitter. I have a promo code for you guys for Right Angle Sports if you want to buy the package for the season. And there's actually a big discount than if you buy it. So actually hit me up.
Hit him up. You can email as well.
Email.
Circles off at thehammer.bet.
Thehammer.bet.
This has been a big bomb banger of an episode. We got through a lot of topics. People were asking for more length.
What's the clip going to be?
You've been asked for more length before, haven't you?
What's going to be? Rob, come on. What's the clip going to be for this episode?
That's a tough one. Do you make notes, Zach, as you go along? You have to be making notes.
Don't make it.
Yeah.
You got a
don't make
timestamp
it my
for-
rant, my monologue on Fezzik. Don't make it that. Make it Rob for this one,
Make it me.
please. All right.
There's probably a lot of quality clippable content in this one.
Yeah,
I think so.
Absolutely.
I think so. This has been Circles Off, episode number 117. We'll catch everyone next week.
Peace.